everybody, and welcome back to the channel. My name is Brianna, this is Coffee, Books, and Bullet Journals, and it is time to talk about the books that I read in the month of August. We are doing things a little bit differently. We're in a different setup. I guess it's like a la Books and Lala style. Doesn't she do her wrap-ups in her bedroom? We'll just go with it. This is what worked today. I have never been more glad that I did a mid-month wrap-up than this month, because I have 16 books to talk about. I have my best reading month of the year. I read 16 books, 5,047 pages. That's a lot. It's more than any month, like, ever this year. So, very excited about that. I binge read, like, an entire series. I read a few tomes. It was a pretty much a good time. Let's go over stats, then I'm going to talk about the books in the order that I ranked, rated them. So, worst book to best book. That one's going to be difficult. Not really. But any of the books that I talked about in my mid-month wrap-up, I'm not going to go into detail about today, because otherwise this video would be like 3 hours long. It's already going to be long. Grab yourself a cup of coffee, something. But I'll link the mid-month wrap-up up in the cards above and description below, all that fun stuff. And yeah, we'll just go from there. So I read 8 adult, that's if you count The Wayward Children as adult books, because I kind of binged that series, which I'll talk about here in a minute. I put them in adult, because Barnes & Noble shelves them as adult books. And then I did have 3 middle grade books. I had 1 new adult book and 4 young adult books. I read 2 contemporary, 5 fantasy, 2 graphic novels, 2 paranormal, 1 romance, 2 sci-fi, and 2 thriller books. And my average star rating was a 3.88. And I had some really good books in there, but then I also had a 1.5 star read. I had 1 1.5, 1 2, 3 3 star, 1 3.5 star, 2 4 star, 4 4.5 star, and 4 5 stars. So I really did have a good month, and I have a couple books on here that could potentially make favorites, and I'm excited to talk about them. So, like I just said, I have talked about most of these in detail, whether it be in the mid-month wrap-up or in individual vlogs. So, without further ado, let's talk about it. Also, I have a Doyle sitting with me, so if you hear him, that's why. My first read was my 1.5 star read, and that was Midnight Sun by Stephanie Meyer. I do have a dedicated vlog on this that I will link up above as well. This was not great. We've talked about this in depth. Edward's still a stalker creepy dude, and I'm not shipping it. And apparently there's gonna be more in this series. Like, Stephanie Meyer is writing more books. Why? Can someone please tell me that? Because I don't know. Anyways, we've talked about that book in detail. I'm not gonna go into it any further. I was really hoping that, 15 years later, her writing would be better, and unfortunately it wasn't. So, all right, moving on to my 2-star read, and that was Neurotica by Eliza Gordon. I also did talk about this one in my mid-month wrap-up, so I'm not going to go into detail about it. This is a new adult romance, and it is about, these, very nerdy, geeky character that decided to become a stereotype, and that's basically what it was. We were 50% into the book, and we had way more nerd and Star Wars, which, I am a nerd, I'm a geek, I need all of that. But this was more that than smut. And it was weird. There was also a lot of conversation about basically forcing her into sexual situations. And the whole thing was her therapist wanted her to write smut in order to get over her fear of sex. But ace people exist. And we didn't discuss the possibility that maybe she was just asexual or aromantic and just didn't like it. It was just, it creeped me out from the very beginning, and just I wasn't here for it. It was a Kindle Unlimited book, it wasn't, but it was one that a lot of people have been talking about a couple of years ago. and it fit a prompt, and I just wasn't here for it. So moving on to my 3-star reads. The first one was a huge disappointment for me, and that was The Turn of the Key by Ruth Ware. This was one of my 5-star predictions. Everyone was talking about it. Everyone was saying how much they loved it. They were saying how much they loved her her writing had gotten so much better. And I had enjoyed The Death of Mrs. Westaway, which was her book previous to this, I believe. And so I was like, oh, well, then this is going to be great. Like, if this is better than The Death of Mrs. Westaway, then this is going to be great. And the thing about Ruth Ware is that she is so far out in left field that it's just ridiculous. And so some of the things, like, first off, she has so many red herrings throughout the book. And you think, oh, it's this, oh, it's this, oh, it's this. And then when it actually happens, like, it's none of those things. So then you're just, like, frustrated because then you're like, but I didn't see that coming. We didn't talk about that. We didn't discuss the possibility of that. And for me, like, I know some people like to be surprised in thrillers. They like to be, they don't want to know what's going on, or they don't want to know the ending. But for me, I want to at least have the ability to know the ending. And Ruth Ware just does not do that. She has, this plot twist was just so far out of left field that I just didn't know what was going on. And also the main character was insufferable, and, like, she should never have been around children. Like, if you work with children, don't read this book, because it will infuriate you, essentially, throughout the entire thing. So, anyways, 3 stars. Disappointing. The next one I also did talk a little bit in my mid-month wrap-up, and that was The One and Only Ivan by Katherine Applegate. This is a middle grade book about a gorilla who is in this, like, circus, and then, like, kind of befriends this baby elephant. I read it because it was going to be on Disney Plus, which I'm not sure I loved the movie quite as much. It just didn't have the same feel of it. There were things that had gotten changed a little bit just to make it, like, a little more dramatic, I guess. So it was, this is a really cute book, and the audiobook is really sweet, and it's only like 3 hours long, so I highly recommend that. And there was nothing wrong with it. It was just, like, a cute middle grade. So, it didn't hold a lot of, like, it didn't hold my attention. It didn't make me cry or anything like that. So it was good, but it wasn't fantastic. I finished out the graphic novel series Emma and Violet with volume 3. I think it's called When the Glitter Fades Away or something like that. And this was a really cute, it is a young adult graphic novel. The 2 sisters, I think, are, like, teens or preteens. And it's, like, there's, again, not a ton going on, but this one was really cute, and it really kind of bonded the sisters back together. This was the younger sister's first kind of recital or, like, performance with this new school, and obviously, like, there's stage fright and this other, like, everything that's going on when she's, like, getting scared because she's afraid that something's going to happen. This was super early in the month that I read it, so I don't really remember much of it, but I did like the conclusion. It also left it open for a little bit of a, like, potential to continue on. However, this one did, I think it was published in 2018, so I don't know that it's going to continue, but we'll see. Moving on to my 3.5 stars, and this one is a little bit of an unpopular opinion as well, and that is Felix Ever After by Case and Calendar. This is a young adult contemporary about a trans boy, and I use that word kind of cautiously because throughout this, like, so he starts out as a trans boy, but he kind of goes through this entire story of finding himself and discovering his identity and who he is, and it is really, really sweet and cute, and it deals with a lot of issues, and I'm not an Own Voices reviewer. Obviously, I'll link a couple of Own Voices reviews down below. So I want to use caution when I say that I didn't love this book because, like I said, it's not for me. I am a white cis woman, and this is about a black queer trans boy. So, like, I am on the opposite end of the spectrum here. So I want to make that very, very clear when I say that I didn't love this book. The thing is that I had to remind myself, I guess, that I am no longer in high school. And this book, like, deals with a lot of high school drama, and I feel like the main character just wasn't a great person, and I feel like he kind of, like, was kind of shitty to his friends, and, like, I get that he was going through a lot, but I was just like, come on, can we not? It was just, like, it was a lot of angst, it was a lot of, drama, but I think that in the right hands, this is going to be a really powerful book. That's just, I wasn't the right person for it. The writing style was really, really good, and by the end of it, I did love the character, so I guess that, like, shows a growth in the character, but it was just, like, it was a little bit of a struggle to get through. But again, I'm not the person that should be reading this, so I kind of take my review with a grain of salt. Moving on to my 4-star reads, the first one I want to talk about is The Martian by Andy Weir. This is an adult sci-fi novel, and I really, really liked this book. It was a reread for me, but it had been, like, probably 5 years since I had read it, and this was really good. I mean, there was a lot of science in it, and so there were definitely some parts that I may have read a little faster than I normally do, because you kind of skim through that stuff, like when you're talking about math and things like that, because then it's just, I'm just not there. It was a little over my head. We'll just be honest. But as far as the pacing of this book, the intensity, the tension, the survival aspect of it, I loved that. It's really interesting because the movie is really similar to the book, and we have a lot of the same conversations and, like, the same scenes and things like that. So I really liked that. I actually watched the movie last night just to kind of, like, refresh myself. But yeah, I really enjoyed this. I'm interested to pick up his other book, Artemis. I never did when it came out, because there were just some things that, like, I saw some reviews that wasn't as good, so I'm hesitant, but also, like, especially after, like, recently reading this, I do definitely want to pick it up. I'm, like, on a space science-y kind of kick right now, and I don't know why, but I'm just gonna go with it. I'm going to talk about the next 3 books all together, and that was Beneath the Sugar Sky, In an Absent Dream, and Come Tumbling Down by Shauna Maguire. This is the 3rd, 4th, and 5th book in the Wayward Children series, and like I said, I kind of binged the series. I was given an arc of Across the Green Grass Fields, which is the, like, upcoming book that comes out in January, and I wanted to kind of catch up because I kind of got behind in that series. And I'm talking about these all together because I gave In an Absent Dream and Beneath the Sugar Sky 4.5 stars, and I gave Come Tumbling Down 4 stars. I read them in such quick succession that I don't really remember, like, the individual books because I kind of, like I said, I binge read the whole thing. I think Beneath the Sugar Sky is probably my favorite of the 3, and probably my favorite of the whole series. And that is because we have a plus-size main character who is a badass, strong character, and I love seeing that. It makes my heart warm. As a plus-size woman and someone who has been plus-size for a long time, like, it's really cool to see those positive aspects in characters like that. Really enjoyed that. And I also enjoyed the kind of, like, the world building outside of its individual book. The first 2 kind of are introductions. And then this 3rd one finally gets to the point where we're trying to connect all of the worlds. So it talks about the differences in the worlds and the logic and the nonsense and the good versus evil and all of this and how they interact with each other, which was what I was looking for in the first 2 books and why I didn't love the series to begin with, because I didn't understand it. So that's just a personal thing for me, and now I kind of understand, like, why everybody likes it. And then In an Absent Dream is very much singular. It has its own storyline. It doesn't interact with the other characters, and so I'm really curious to see how she kind of brings it back around. Maybe that character will be in other books. I don't know, but I really loved her. She was just, like, so cute and bookish, and it was sweet. And then Come Tumbling Down kind of revisits the Moors, which was Down Among the Sticks and Bones, and then Jack and Jill. Because I didn't love Down Among the Sticks and Bones as much, I think I gave that one 3 stars originally. That one, I don't know, it just felt like it was, like, the stakes were too low. Like, we were literally trying to save people's lives, but it was just so fast. And it was like, just this, like, we were building, and then it was like, okay, we're done. And I think that's just a problem with the novella format of it. They all seem very episodic, and they don't build on each other quite as much. And that's just a personal thing for me. I totally get why people love it, but that just didn't suit me quite as much. Okay, continuing on with my 4.5 stars, I read Tunnel of Bones by Victoria Schwab. This is another middle grade book, and this was like the perfect setup to get me into the spooky season. I loved this. This is the second book in the Cassidy Blake? I don't know why I wanted to say something else. Cassidy Blake. The first one takes place in Edinburgh, and she has this like ghost friend, and they go on adventures because her parents have this TV show where they hunt ghosts essentially, and they have this documentary series. And so this time they were going into the catacombs in Paris, and I love the catacombs. I love Paris. It was fascinating. I remember watching a movie several years ago, and this is like horror, not like middle grade. But I think it was called As Above, So Below, and it was talking about the catacombs. And so like I had this in my mind because I was like, obviously I've never been there. I've never been to Paris, but I was able to kind of like visualize it because I've seen that movie. I don't know. That sounds weird, but whatever. But this was really, really fascinating, and it kind of like upped the stakes, and there was just a lot more going on, and I felt like things could actually go really wrong. I am so excited to pick up the next one, which is Bridge of Souls, and it comes out in March, I believe, and that one takes place in New Orleans, which, like, if you're gonna have a ghost story, you can't do it without New Orleans. Very excited. So yeah, I gave this one 4.5 stars, and I really enjoyed it. My last 4.5 star read was like so close to being a 5-star read, and that is The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. I did talk about this one in my mid-month wrap-up. This was the first book I finished this month. My only problem with it was the pacing was so fast that I was getting whiplash, essentially. But I loved this. I'm reading The Dragon Republic right now, and I'm loving it. And so excited for this new series. I think it might become a favorite. If you did not see my mid-month wrap-up, this is a Asian fantasy, or Asian-inspired fantasy. And this one takes a lot out of I think it's the Japanese Sunni War? Takes a lot of inspiration from that, and it's graphic, it's gory. There are so many trigger warnings. I highly encourage you to check those out before you pick this book up, because I know it's been going around BookTube everywhere right now, but you gotta be in a good headspace for this one, and you gotta know that chapter 21 is coming. Moving on to my 5-star reads, the first one was a graphic novel, and that was Aqua, Cove by Katie O'Neill. This is the same person who does the Tea Dragon Society, Tea Dragon Festival. I found it on Hoopla. I needed to use up my credits, and this one was so adorably cute. I think I may even like it more than the Tea Dragons. This was just so good. It talks a lot about using only what you need and taking the resources from the earth that you need, not necessarily the ones that you can take, because obviously you're taking from somebody else and something else, and it was so good. So precious, and highly recommend it. I was able to find all of them on Hoopla. In fact, I think her entire backlist is on Hoopla. I think I have maybe one more to read from her. I'm not sure. But yeah, like I said, everything's on Hoopla. Highly recommend checking that out. And obviously, if you haven't read the Tea Dragon, was it Tea Dragon Festival? No, that's the new one. Tea Dragon Society, and then Festival, and then Tapestry. I think that's how those go. Anyways. Highly recommend all of her work. Her art style is adorably precious, and you can't go wrong. My next 5-star read was A Girl Like Her by Talia Hibbert. This is a backlist of hers, and I've just decided I'm going to read everything that Talia Hibbert has written because, God, that woman can write. This is so good. This is about Ruth, who is autistic, and she's very introverted, and she doesn't like people, and like, you know, girl, same. She sees it as a burden and a chore, basically, to get through to talk to people. And she's just the coolest character ever. She loves comic books. This was incredibly emotional to get through, because I started reading this, I think, on a Monday or Tuesday. And this character loves comic books, specifically Black Panther. And then I finished reading this on the Saturday after Chadwick Boseman died. And it was just, it hit a whole different way. And it was, yeah, still not okay. But, anyways, so, Ruth lives in this apartment, and Evan moves in next door, and he finds out that she doesn't have an oven, and she doesn't cook. She basically lives off of ramen noodles, and so he's like, well, I'm going to cook for you, because I can't live next door to you, and then find out one day that you starved to death, because all you were doing was eating ramen noodles. So he starts cooking for her, and then they start becoming friends, and then they start having sex, and like, Talia Hibbert can write smut. This book was so steamy. I was just... it was so good. Loved this. I also really love, and she does the same thing with her Brown Sisters series. Talia Hibbert is really good at writing family, and so Ruth has a sister named Hannah, and they're very, very close. Those sisters are, you know, that dynamic between the two of them. They have a little bit of a situation that they have to get through as well, and so I like the fact that it's not just about the two of these people. Like, it's also about other things involved. The second one, I can't remember what the title is, but it's about Hannah, and it's also on Audible Escape, so I will be listening to that one as soon as possible. Once I get back into my contemporary mood, like I said, right now I'm in like this sci-fi and thriller kick. I don't know why, but I'm just gonna go with it. Alright, this one was definitely a surprise. Actually, the last two were both definitely surprises for me. The first one is An Absolutely Remarkable Thing by Hank Green. This is the first in... I don't know what the series is called, but this is a duology. I have the second one. I need to pick it up. I have talked about this one a little bit in my mid-month wrap-up, so I'm not going to go into too much detail about this, but this is a sci-fi about a girl who comes across this statue or something, and she doesn't know what it is, does a video on it. The video ends up going viral, and then she becomes like the face of this that ends up being a little bit extraterrestrial. We don't really know. Very good, very high stakes. And it was one of those things, I was listening to it on audio, and this is one of those stories that like you forget you're reading a book. It's that good. So, highly recommend this one. Like I said, I will be picking up the second one in the duology as soon as possible. Alright, and then the last book is my favorite book of the month, and potentially could be a favorite for the year, which is really weird because I don't usually put thrillers on my my favorites because generally they're just not that big of a hit. But I talked about this one in my vlog. I think it was my birthday week vlog, so I'll link that one up above because those are like my live reactions. But that is The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides. I freaking loved this book. The twist was like... I still don't have any words for this book. This book was genius. Everything that this author did was just amazing. And it's really cool because you're going along and you're reading these two different perspectives and you're trying to figure out why it's important. Why is this person important? What is going on? Why are we talking about this? It doesn't seem to be going along with this. And then the ending hits you like a brick wall. Like, I don't have words for this book. I was so floored. This was definitely one of those ones that, like, I went back a chapter. And I was like, wait, you did what? Okay, I see what you did there. So this is actually one that I'm thinking about rereading, which I never do. Like, I don't reread thrillers. But it'll be really fascinating to go back and reread it, now knowing the end and seeing if the clues were there all along. And I know I talked about, like, just a few minutes ago, talked about the fact that, like, I do want the ability to be able to figure out what was going on. And yet this one floored me. And it's not the same. Like, I did have the ability to figure it out. It was sitting right in front of me. I just didn't see it. It's not like it's something, so like with Ruth Ware, it tends to be like, we might have like made one sentence about whatever the ending was. And everything else that was just so far, like, we didn't even discuss the possibility. This one did it magnificently in the fact that it was talking about it. It was just so subtle. And there are a ton of red herrings in here, but like I wasn't mad about them like I was with the turn of the key. I don't know if that makes sense. I don't even know if it makes sense to me. But this one did it amazingly. The turn of the key did not. So that's just what we're going with. I loved this book. I highly recommend that you pick it up. Okay, guys, that was a lot of books to talk about. I apologize, but I hope that maybe you found some recommendations in here, and hope you enjoyed my thoughts. So if you are new here and you have not yet subscribed, there's a little red button that you could do so down below the video, and all of the links to my social media will be in the description below if you would like to be my friend on any other platform. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.
Makes this heart beat faster.